in 2 minutes. Let's just. Yes, it is on that note we welcome you to today's edition of Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Victor Oguyinka, and today a lot of headlines following that protest yesterday, all looking in some parts of Nigeria, particularly about 4 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. And I have with me the publisher of Ilupeju Today and GRA Today, Mr. Dayo Akintobi. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
Yeah, yesterday was a day of lots of apprehension, tension, and until it went the way it went, especially in Lagos, protest shouts, revolution noise, little arrests, tear gas, exchanges between the security and some protesters. What was the take in the whole of all those matters, building up from the weekend?
Well, it was a watershed yesterday, actually, because there had been a big build-up to this thing happening yesterday, starting with Showore's arrest over the weekend, and then people mobilizing, and of course the police and the security forces essentially trying to say things have to be orderly and follow a particular process. So ultimately the engagement occurred, and there was quite a bit of fallout.
Okay, talking about fallout, let us see all the major headlines in some Nigerian newspapers today, talking about almost the same thing. And then 2 high point events yesterday: the protest, and of course that court's injunction on ex-Zaki, long time coming, and many reactions. Also, we have our correspondent in Kaduna also waiting to give us an update of that news. But very quickly, let us start with the Vanguard this morning, where we have #revolution now. Angry youths confront security men. Protests in 4 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. And you can see the riders on that one. Police brutalized 70-year-old women as exercise turned violent in Osun. That's a sad one. 1 shot. Police arrest 12, including journalists. Pro-government protesters mobilized to disrupt protests. Malafia, 7 presidential candidates. Others call for Showore's release. And then revolution has failed, coming from the presidency. Okay, those are the angles to that protest. For you, do you think, starting from the arrest of Showore, saying that then the use of the word revolution was treasonable, and then all those things together, what was your take, in the whole of the build-up?
Well, there's a clear difference between a protest, a demonstration, and a revolution. And you have to basically be very careful with your rhetoric so that you don't leave it open to interpretation. Now, the authorities have the wherewithal to to interpret according to their own perception. Now, even if
not according to the Constitution.
Well, the Constitution is vague, intentionally so. The Constitution cannot be written specifically for every type of human behavior. So the Constitution is written in very broad, general terms, and it's up to the Supreme Court to interpret the actual letter of the Constitution from what is not said by the Constitution. So there is no clear definition of what revolution means. But if you look in the dictionary and in the authorities, revolution says a violent overthrow, seeking to violently overthrow the government. So that term itself is incendiary, it's inflammatory, and it is confrontational. If you use protest or you use demonstration, that connotes peaceful, placard carrying, just a verbal airing of opinion of we don't agree with what you're doing. But by the time you use the word revolution, it connotes something more major that involves actively seeking through violence or other coercive means to change the government.
While defending that statement, I saw a video of Femi Falana, that happens to be the lawyer of the arrested Sahara Reporters publisher Omoyele Sowore. He said that as far as it went in that conversation and that video, where he was said to have made that statement, that it was still within his constitutional rights to organize a protest of whatsoever coloration. And then, being that as it may, the word that he used, he was also looking at it from the angle of the Constitution. Of course, he was a lawyer and a lawyer to the arrested person, and he felt that that action by the DSS was a step too far.
Well, he's doing his job, as you said. He's a lawyer to the accused person, so he has to interpret his own understanding of the word. But if you go to the other side of the fence and you ask the government how they interpreted it, they say they said right. So guess what? The Supreme Court has to break it down, because they are the final arbiters of what constitutes a constitutional provision.
But it's about 3 to 4 days already, and then there has not been any court proceeding on this matter. It's still where he is, nobody is. He was also saying that by yesterday, Monday, if it was not taken to court, then it is becoming something else from the government.
Absolutely, that's part of the problem, and that's part of why this government opens itself to allegations of overreaching, overbearing, dictatorial tendencies. The law allows them about 48 hours to hold a person without being charged. So according to the law, he should have been charged to court, because all the government has got right now is an allegation. They are not the prosecutors to determine your guilt or innocence. Their own is to say, we believe you have committed an offense, so we're going to bring you before the powers that be, who constitutionally are empowered to adjudicate that allegation.
Okay, talking about protest, irrespective of the choice of word or term that was used, to gather the people. What we saw yesterday, we were at the National Stadium yesterday, and we saw firsthand the every presence of security and all those things. Would you say that it was a ploy to put fear in the minds of people, not to be able to go to the street, at least to show their grief?
There's nowhere in the world that a protest, even a peaceful one, not talking about revolution, a protest or a demonstration, even with a police permit and all the requisite authorities approving it, there's nowhere in the world where security apparatus don't come out to ensure orderliness, to ensure protection of the protesters, and to ensure it's not hijacked by miscreants. Because when a lot of people are gathered together, it's it's an inflammable situation that can easily escalate into all kinds of mayhem.
Then we'll begin to talk about the appearance of how friendly or unfriendly the appearance of the security operatives should look in public. Seeing them with assault rifles, seeing them with weapons that could go very, very ugly. A couple of weeks ago, when the Shiite protest happened in Abuja, we lost 2 persons in the country, a youth corps member and a policeman, because of a stray bullet. you would begin to ask yourself that why carry such sophisticated weapon to a protest? What exactly is the intention?
Well, I don't doubt that in certain cases the police have a tendency to be overzealous.
Mm-hmm.
But as part of their oversight function in protecting the public, they do have to have the tools by which they carry out their jobs. That is not to say they should be reckless, but I do think they cannot go to these kind of rallies or public gatherings without being properly equipped to enforce law and order, because there's always that specter of the possibility that it can get out of hand.
Okay, indeed. You can see on your screen that video still playing by the side of what happened yesterday, and of course it's still today in the news, and we shouldn't lose our focus on that. And that is just the major headline of the Vanguard this morning on page 5 of the Vanguard. Okay, so we move away from that to page 8. Yes, let's take that El-Zakzaky story. DSS bows to court order, releases El-Zakzaky to travel for treatment in India. We are going to connect with somebody from Kaduna, and just before that, I would like you to, what was your take when you heard that that court order yesterday allowing Dasuki to go outside the country to take care of himself?
My very first thought was, well, is the government going to obey that court order? Because previous courts
the
previous courts have granted him bail as well, and the government has said no, they're not releasing him. So the first question is, will the government accede to this latest court order? And if they do, then to me, I think it's a good thing.
Okay, and I think one of the things that was mentioned yesterday on that case was that it would be accompanied by some DSS officials, to India. And after his treatment, he'll be brought back to the country to continue his trial.
Well, that's okay too. The point is that a court order has been obeyed. I don't think court orders should be defied. I think that undermines the judiciary, undermines the very tenets of democracy. So I think court orders should be obeyed. You can attach any kind of conditions to it.
Okay, but while we are still on it, we'll try to connect with Ben Agande as the show continues. But that story is on page 8. You can read all of it. A lot of people have been calling for the release of the Shiite leader, talking about Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and I think it's about time for him to have one of his steps to get his health together. And we shouldn't forget that he was actually granted this permission on health ground, to take care of himself, where it was reported a couple of months back that his health started deteriorating.
Government should have a human face, and I'm glad that in this case, at least, if in the past they didn't grant him bail based on the fact that he has been granted bail by a court, they didn't release him. But in this case, they're now saying, okay, his health. We are compassionate. We understand that.
Yeah. It remains to be seen how it all pans out, which we hopefully
remain hopeful.
Well, of course. And that's it on page 8. And straight away from that one to security news on page 14 of the Vanguard. Ogun to demolish houses used by kidnappers. Arrest landlords. Houses used by kidnappers. They have this intel that these houses were actually used by kidnappers.
Yes, to hide their victims.
And with landlords, what exactly are we waiting for? Those houses should be demolished already.
Well, yes, the Ogun State government has taken that step to say we're not going to create an environment that facilitates this type of activity, and we will protect our citizens and put them first. And if we discover you as a landlord or you as a tenant collaborating with any nefarious activity whatsoever, we will take steps.
You know what's interesting to me? I've been to a couple of places all around Nigeria, and I noticed something very, very that is becoming a trend, and I think it's still growing. Having abandoned buildings almost everywhere, and I think that is actually what's happening here in Ogun State. You go to Ibadan, you see them. You go to Enugu, you go to almost everybody seems to be relocated, maybe outside the country or going to the bigger cities in Nigeria, and then we have these buildings that are not housing anyone, and it's becoming a hideout for some of all these things. What do you think should be done to those kind of properties in Nigeria?
In GRA Ikeja, what we also publish, it is a big problem. There are a lot of abandoned properties, empty buildings, lots of empty land, and a lot of miscreants, homeless people, vagrants have started moving in and occupying these places and use it as a hideout for all kinds of illegal activity. So in GRA, for example, what has happened is the Residents Association, in collaboration with the police, has started identifying these buildings and contacting the owners to say that if you don't take possession of your property and begin to do something with it, either demolish it, occupy it, redevelop it. If you don't do any of these things, we will get the government to move in. Remember, government owns all land.
Of course.
You're just a leaseholder putting your building on it. So if you don't conform to what the government wants, they will ask for their land back. Tell you to move your house.
I think that's a very, very bold one. If you're just joining us, it is still today in the news on Vanguard, and we're having some interesting comments. I just can't wait to rush over this and see what people are saying, because everybody seems to have one opinion or the other about the protest. The social media is still talking about it. It's still, it is still a developing story, yes, because we've not seen the last of it. So I'm saying that until Showore is released, they will continue to hit it. Even after Showore is released, they will continue to do the needful. So just keep the comments coming. We are going to join all of it and take as many as we can, provided it is worthy, of decent enough for us to read. And then we have an interview on page 43 of the Vanguard talking about the state of the nation with Christopher Kolade. Those reaping from faulty structures won't change Nigeria. That is a big punchline there. Of course, if you're reaping from a system, whether it's working or not working, change will be very, very difficult.
Of course, you will resist change.
And on our own case, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the one that's working. So we would really look for a way to phase out those people really reaping from this country. And then, the very, very terrible stuff on page 43 of the Vanguard there. And coming from the NPA managing director, why importers prefer Lagos to other ports in Nigeria. I think that is even another problem, because talking about Apapa and the gridlock we have and how unattractive it's supposed to be, it turns out that she is saying that why it is still attracting more people, why people still prefer it to other ports. One of the palliative on ground is that they should start making other ports attractive enough for people to use instead of Lagos State. But right now it looks like people would still prefer Lagos, even in the middle of all those inappropriacies surrounding the place. It is still a problem. So how do we dissuade them from coming to Lagos and then go to Port Harcourt and other ports?
Well, there has to be infrastructure. If you're talking about Port Harcourt and and some other places, you have to provide things like rail. You have to provide things like roads, the infrastructure by which to begin to move their thing, because the port is just an entry point. It's not the termination point. The things arriving at the port are still going elsewhere. So there has to be infrastructure in place that facilitates easy movement of goods and people. Despite the gridlock and all the problems of Apapa, it is still the most accessible and the easiest from which to move your items to the rest of the country.
Indeed. Okay, that's on page 8 of the Vanguard from the NPA MD, why importers prefer Lagos to other ports in Nigeria. Okay, and we have our interesting columnist today, Udumaki on page 17, Teniola on page 18, and Malafia on page 31, and of course we have Niger Delta inside today's Vanguard. You should get all of those news for yourself. And of course, how do I forget, we have Aribi Salah also on page 40. The revolution will not be televised. So the saying goes, yeah. And then very quickly, let us rush through the back page of the Vanguard, where we have Vanguard Sports. And then it is transfer window as the season opener is inching every second closer. And then Messi suffers injury blow, out for a while. Yeah, very bad one for Barcelona there. And then we have Lukaku. Lukaku has been in the news for a couple of days now, talking about his switch to Italy. Yeah, we have right now it is not Juventus that is coming, all it is Inter, and he said Inter to make new bid for Lukaku. Okay, wherever it's going to be, if it's Juventus or Inter Milan, it's sure that he may not be a Manchester United player for long anymore. Then please let me go. Mera begs Chelsea. Mera has become a perennial loanee at Chelsea, moving from one club to another for a very long time, and now he wants a permanent move away from Chelsea. We don't know how he's going to have that happen, and he has voiced his displeasure on the club to let him go. Okay, Community Shield. Fear of failing drug tests kept Mahrez out of Guardiola. Of course, he just finished playing in the African Cup of Nations, and he just wanted to play immediately also. And then the coach says, no, you might just make it a bad outing for us. If in the process we won and we were tested for doping, it might just be something too big to handle for him. And then, of course, Manchester United trying to get their team back together. Manchester United reject Rodriguez Pogba deal, swap deal. And then Man United also make Maguire world's most expensive defender. Okay, that's all we take on that back page on today's sport. So very quickly, let us take some comments, see what they say before we go into other newspapers, and of course straight to the social media. And we have Stella Albina saying hi, and many comments. Then we have Kings Amaso saying this is what Nigeria has turned into. Okay, I'm trying to be very careful with those comments. They seem to be coming very in all fury. Okay. Ayaguchika, I say let's be very careful because little by little it will get out of hand or being hijacked. That is just as you said. If it is a revolution, yes, it could be very, very extreme in some cases. Absolutely. And they might just be hijackers. Okay, and then we have Dolakbo Ogunchile is saying revolution has a dual meaning, and I can't understand why it's being interpreted in just one way. Okay, I think this person is taking a cue from what you said about revolution. So it can be one of these or another. Absolutely. Yeah. Then we have AGK Okongu saying no unity, no revolution. It's a joke. There will never be revolution in a country of tribalism. Ignorant people, we are far away from unity in Nigeria. That's a shame. Then Azanti is saying one of our problems are the Nigerian media outlets. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, and said one of our problems are Nigerian media outlets. Maybe you should see more. Let us see how the media is also not helping. Yes, it's not out of place. Everybody, it's a very, very big country, and everybody has a blame to take in all this things. So you can just fleshing up that comment and let us see what angle you're coming from. But thank you anyway for that comment. Joseph Osagu say when the people are afraid of their government, there is tyranny in the land. But when the government is afraid of the people, there is rule of law in the land. Coming from Thomas Jefferson, that was what he quoted in that place. Okay, and then Prince Ari say any clever Nigerian that wants revolution should do that with ballot box during next election. Have the right and the constitutional backup not to overthrow a legally elected government through violence, as it is. Okay, so as it may end, even if it starts peacefully, we know our people. The next will be breaking of stores. I think he's making a point that if you want revolution, do it with your ballot box.
The presidency made that point yesterday, and they essentially said, look, you had an opportunity 6 months ago to say you want a change of government. Mm-hmm. And the legitimate and legal way to do that is through the ballot box. But at the ballot box, overwhelmingly, people said, this is the government we want. So the decision has been made by the people. And then the ones who hold the ultimate power. Okay,
then Owefe Desmond is saying, I sincerely think that there is misconception here by the revolutionists and the government. The revolutionists has not been able to define what they meant under a democratic government. Are they saying, this is a very long one, are they saying this legal government be terminated by virtue of their revolution, or are they giving birth to a new democratic government, the democratic revolution and ideology manifesto that will march and gravitate towards 2023 general election using the AAC as a platform? If Ishore meant the first one of terminating these democratic settings, then he has reasonable questions to answer. But if it meant the second one by using AAC party as a platform to create political revolution towards 2023, then I would say hi. To me, he said Nigeria is not a failed country in my opinion, but majority of Nigerians, this same man contested last presidential election with the same ideology and manifesto, but we rejected him for Buhari and Articulate. So anybody that is shouting against the government anyhow and yet voted PNB or Atiku in last general election is just the problem of Nigeria. I so submit. That's exactly what you were saying. Absolutely. That you had your chance, yes, and then you made your decision. So yes, if you're still coming for revolution after just months after the election, then
it's hypocritical.
Yes,
and what is even more painful to me is the fact that Showore, and he had a golden opportunity with that coalition they wanted to do with coming out with one. This what he's trying to do. He had an opportunity to create a movement earlier this year, when they could have come out with one candidate. They would have coalesced under one candidate. Mogalu, Dorotoye, Obi Ezekwesili, when they said, let us pick one candidate, but their egos got in the way. If they had been able to select one out of that and coalesce a movement around that person, even if they were not successful then the movement would have snowballed into a push for this change they are looking for now. They lost a golden opportunity.
Indeed, that is what it sees. Okay, we'll move away from the Vanguard down to the Guardian, and then still on that protest, and we have outrage over crackdown on unarmed protesters. Ezekwesili, Balarabe, Musa, others flare alleged police brutality. CSO to petition IGP Adamu at International Criminal Court. Buhari commends Nigerians for ignoring revolution. Okay, everybody just has something to pick from this. Okay, still on the same matter. And then court to supervise Zaki's travel for treatment abroad. And then one last one here. Visit Egypt and see Nigerians' backwardness. That's a report on the Guardian. Maybe you should get that and see what they are talking about that. Indeed. And then we'll move straight to the Punch, where we have Herdsmen Menace banditry. Lagos, Benue, Ebonyi, 5 orders to acquire drones. Ogun, Oyo, Enugu planning to file application. Okay. And I'm also left 18 billion naira for Abiodun, says ex-commissioner. That's yes, of course we'll continue to hear more of this from both parties until we stop hearing about it.
Absolutely, okay. But there's always a divergence between what he says he left and what the new guy says he met. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, and that has always been the case. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, and you can see a picture of some of the protesters in Lagos, Osun, and Abuja. And then there's something on oil here. It's oil price falls below $60 budget benchmark. Is that trouble?
It is.
Okay. Yes, and we have the latest edition of Ilupeju Today. Don't forget, Ilupeju Today is a community newspaper, okay, being published in Ilupeju, and then of course GRA Today. And then more recently, there's another edition coming up. Should we tell them?
Yes,
that's a social media language. Should we tell them? Okay, and then of course Lekki, okay, coming on your way. We'll continue to get all of this news here as a break. And of course, we have today the publisher of Ilupeju Today, GRA Today, and now Lekki Today with us, Mr. Dayo Akintobi. God, always very, very wonderful having you around. And today on Ilupeju Today, we have outrage in Ilupeju as bystander shot dead during police raid of notorious Mairana Den. We mentioned the other time when we were talking about the security operative, the police, and the kind of weapons they carry. This was supposed to be a raid on a marijuana den. If you go to a marijuana den, what kind of people do you see there? People that are not even with their senses because they are high on one thing or the other. How do you now go there with assault rifle? Now it has led to the death of a bystander.
Yes, it's rather unfortunate. This was an innocent person who was going about his daily grind, and unfortunately got in the crossfire. And as you mentioned, why would police go fully armed to a non-violent type confrontation? But the thing about it, we have to understand the way police work. Their first obligation is to protect themselves, and they never can predict what they're going to meet in certain circumstances. Without a doubt, in some cases, police are overzealous. But even when they go for a domestic violence investigation, they go armed because they never can tell at any time who is lurking behind a corridor or a door, at which point their lives may be threatened.
So people have talked about the use of something like rubber bullets, that may not entirely take your life, and all those things. But it turns out that we still don't have that in Nigeria. In most cases, like we've seen.
There has to have been a certain level of competency within security apparatus before you can begin to start getting to that degree of sophistication. Rubber bullets are things you deploy in situations where you understand the logistics, where you have the expertise. And I think we are still evolving with our security apparatus to begin to get that sophisticated with rubber bullets.
At a time when we are asking for state police? Okay, I'll just leave you with that. Okay, for another day indeed. And then Yaba Tech partners Ilupeju Today in training mass communication undergraduates. Good one.
Yes, that's something we've partnered with the college for a number of years now. They send their mass communication students, undergraduates, to come and understudy how a community publication is produced, how content is gathered, the production process. It's a part of honing the skills of the undergraduates and preparing them for life after university.
Interesting one there. Okay, and Lagos State government repairs Industrial Avenue in front of Ilupeju Grammar School. Okay, that's what we have today on Ilupeju today, and I think they've been doing a lot of repair also in some other places. But let's talk about the timeliness of those things. Just yesterday, a friend was sharing a very bitter experience yesterday when he was going to work yesterday Monday morning, and then he woke up to see that the road repairers were on the road just before 8 o'clock. And he said a journey that was supposed to last for 25 minutes ended up lasting 1 hour 34 minutes, because of the timeliness of the road. I had my own fair share last Wednesday coming from Apapa down to Sele Axis going to Okiafa, exactly at Okiafa, just at the rush hour in the evening, around 5 o'clock. Then we just saw those people, they just blocked one part of the road and started repair roads, and then you see the heavy traffic building up. Then you ask the question, what exactly, of course we all complain that we have bad roads in Nigeria, but when exactly are we supposed to start fixing this road that won't affect people too much?
Let's not blame the government too much. What matters at this point is that they recognize the fact that we're in a crisis mode with regards to our roads. They've declared a state of emergency on roads, and as far as they're concerned, the main priority is to get the roads fixed. They do have a schedule where they try to make it convenient for road users. They will work at night. But when they get to these places, things happen that are unexpected. So perhaps a night repair extends longer than they anticipated because the road is in worse condition. So maybe they start at 12 midnight or 1 a.m. and it extends into the morning hours because there's a lot more work to do. So what would you rather they do? Because it's daytime, they suspend the work and may not get back to it for another cycle, or they go ahead and continue to fix it. We have to be willing to make some sacrifices for the greater good to get what we want. So you want good roads, endure traffic for one morning so you can get a good road. Then for the next several mornings you flow free.
Okay, that's another angle to it, and straight to Daily Trust this morning. Zakzaky, wife set to fly to India for treatment. Court grants medical leave. Will comply. DSS. Interesting. Will comply.
Very interesting.
So if DSS is complying, is it the same as saying the government is complying also?
DSS is an arm of the executive. So
okay.
For them to say we are complying, the presidency is complying.
Okay, so this is one leg away from Nigeria already for treatment, and of course, you see, the interesting thing about this judgment is that it has given us another long rope to stay at peace with each other for another time, because people have started complaining about how deadly and how dangerous the Shiite group can be if the leaders are. This is not the same as saying that they are succumbing to the threats of those people. Yes, it is just like you just mentioned the other time, having a human face. Yes. He needs treatment and he has to go abroad to, and indeed in that judgment, if you read that case, according to our reporter, he said that he was actually given the permission to choose where he wanted to go to, and he chose India. Yes. Okay, so it was that transparent for him to do. Yes. Good one. And DSS saying they will comply. Another even better in this one. Then FJ reduces oil licensing time to 72 hours. You can get that detail onto this Daily Trust. Nigerians have shamed revolution promoters. Presidency. It looks like a victory for presidency yesterday.
Well, everybody's going to spin it in their own favor. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the presidency is going to say it failed, and sure people are going to say they made their point.
Of course.
It depends on your
where you're coming from. Okay, yes, still talking about that protest and the pictures everywhere on the front page. We have this morning an activist defiant as police smash protesters in cities. 20 protesters held in Lagos, Osun, Cross River. AAC members arrested. Nigerians have shown preference for democracy, says presidency. That is just the story in all the angles as we've talked about. And we have El Zakzaky, the oil crash, also on the front page there. The EFCC raids ex-Zamfara governor Yari's home. Okay, that is all the news on the front pages today. Okay, so we go to the social media and see what people are talking about, especially still on the revolution. And I have one or two comments to take before we go there. We have something from our top fan saying, Ekweme Daniel said, it's not true that importers prefer Lagos ports more than other ports. It's all part of the conspiracy they made clearing partially impossible in those ports. That's deep. I don't know where it's coming from. I hope you are backing. But of course, is your opinion. Just maybe. Okay, so well, thank you anyway for that one. And we have Fakosi. Fakosi, he said, this is so disheartening and appalling. I wonder why this government is so much very afraid of revolution. If they really on the right track, as they always come out to claim, why deploy all this security personnel just to make sure a common protest against bad government doesn't hold? Are we fighting a war? How many are Nigeria's security put together to contend with over 200 million Nigerians if they decide to come out together and end all this beautiful? Okay, Godwin is okay. I think I will not take more than that comment, but I think he has made this point then. Yes, and okay, thank you very much for that comment. So straight up to the social media section where we take reactions from people, what they are talking about. Indeed. Okay, so we have some interesting trends here from today's motivation, today's thoughts. Where was your revolution? That's hashtag and the revolution protest. Then there's Fulani. Okay, let's just take Tuesday motivation first. And what's that about? Where's your revolution? I hope this is not another joke, okay? Because Nigerians would have taken a balance and start making a joke also from where was your revolution. Okay, so let's see. And Susan Day is a Tuesday friendly reminder: be a warrior, not a warrior. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, it's always been said that worrying doesn't solve anything.
It doesn't solve anything.
So
okay.
Go out and confront head on whatever issues are plaguing you.
Indeed, and Susan has advised you to be a warrior, not a warrior. Okay. Then Acho says, I don't care how long it takes me, but I'm going somewhere beautiful. That's determination. Yes. Okay. Let's see what we have. Okay. Then there's something says happiness is a state of mind, and there's a picture of someone that has the first position and another person that came third. Okay, and the one that came third was jubilating, and the one that came first was wondering that what happened. Why is she happier than myself? Okay,
it's a state of mind.
It's a state of mind indeed. Okay, that's a very instructive one there. Okay, and let's take one last one. Say, you glow differently when you pray. Good morning, fam, and have a blessed day. Okay, that's something on religion. Yeah. Where was your revolution? Where was your revolution? Okay. Then Ajayi Olalekan says, do you expect the democratically elected government to sit down and allow some group of people calling for revolution to truncate the government? It would have been better called protest, not revolution. Yes. Okay, that's one of those things you mentioned the other day. Then Loretta Onoche, this from President somewhere. Okay, this is a long trend, so I'll just leave it out. Then Israel Ilori says, so Showere's voice is not spontaneous voice. It is a voice that has been gathering momentum and strength from day zero. We are not thugs. We are not hoodlums. We are responsible intellectuals in this country. Okay, then Ayekuta saying Showere lives in America. Why can't he organize revolution in Washington and London to force the West to release billions of dollars of looted funds for Nigeria and stop providing safe haven for Nigerian looters? Okay, talking about different angles to the same thing, yes. Just like you mentioned earlier. Then spotted now at Ilaje Bariga coming from Ada is a policeman parading in numbers with scary guns. Okay, still talking about that show of strength by the Nigerian police, and that's today. Okay, let's go away from where was the revolution to revolution protest and see if there's anything we get there. Okay, there's a picture of Victor Ogunbenro, a Sarah reporter videographer, being tear gassed directly in the eyes and assaulted even after eating the deck. A responsible government and police must know how to separate protesters from journalists. Okay, I've been trying to hold back not making comments on this yesterday, but I'm going to give you a first hand. I went there with my colleague yesterday, so I think I should give you a first hand view of what actually happened, because we were there and we saw yesterday when Victor, okay, was, he was on that ground and trying to make a scene. The police invited him and asked him to identify himself, but turns out that he didn't. And was beginning to, say something. Of course, at that point, and the police wouldn't want anybody to trigger any of that. Of course, some were already arrested and docked at the back of the van already that were waiting. So he came and they asked for his means of identification and he couldn't provide any at that point. So they probably mistook him for a miscreant or for someone that was coming to, spark up violence and everything, and he got arrested. So that was actually what played out yesterday. But people felt and saw that, okay, he was a journalist and he was arrested. They asked him for his means of identification and he couldn't. Before we started anything in that place yesterday, we had to go speak with the authorities, tell them we are from so place, and we showed our ID card. And said, okay, join them and do whatever you came for. So I think that was where the mix-up came from. He couldn't, identify himself. And somebody there also, a journalist, said that they don't use ID card in this medium. I don't know how true, but if it is true, that's
a shortcoming that can cause these kind of issues.
That is a shortcoming that can lead to comments of somebody saying media part of the problem.
Absolutely. I will say,
just like that person said.
I will say that I believe that anybody who either got arrested or manhandled provoked something. I don't think you will be sitting there peacefully protesting, holding your placard or chanting, and police will just come and manhandle you and pick you up.
Yeah.
You have to have either been in their face or no ID card as a journalist and taking pictures, or you have to have been saying something that was deemed to be threatening. I think they were rather measured. I don't know if you saw a picture of a policewoman.
I'm looking at that picture right now. Unfortunately, I'm not sure Macaulay has that picture.
And I was so impressed by her demeanor.
This is just the picture.
That woman to me is the hero of yesterday.
Of course.
I think she comported herself so well that the police force should be very proud of her, because her demeanor, her engagement with the people, her diffusing the tension, just from one picture.
It tells a lot of stories. And see, Ibrahim Bello says, I love this female police officer. From her rank, she's SP, that's superintendent of police.
Yes.
And so the ability to maintain your head and be calm in the face of provocation is the hallmark of professionalism.
Absolutely.
Kudos, madam.
Yes.
And then you can see them pointing hands and all this, but she was just,
calm
class.
Under fire. Yes.
Class. Okay.
Very well.
Okay. Still on that revolution protest. Okay. We have 2023 will mark the end of APC in Nigeria. The party will eventually disintegrate back to every of its unit components. That party is an amalgamation of sorrow, pain, a lot of things from Ayemo Juba, okay, and from that. And then one final one. Let's see if we can have one final one there. Revolutionary Towolawi. It says, those that have no respect for the rule of law and does not even understand what democracy is have gathered their hungry e-rats overnight again to sell Where Was Your Revolution? But just take a look at this picture and decide who are actually the enemies of the masses. Okay? And then it's a picture of a protest, 65 naira a liter, or revolution now. I think that was coming from back in time. Then 140 naira, more like 419. It has some picture, some faces there. You should go to social media and see that for yourself. Interesting comment so far, from all of those ones. Okay, so we go back again and see if there are more, comments for us to take. Nina is it, after seeing how the Buhari police treats Nigerians, how will South Africa xenophobic treats Nigerians now? That's a big poser there. Okay, it looks like that is how far we will be able to go this morning on this show. Okay, it has been today in the news, looking at a very, very rich spectrum of news from all across Nigeria, from revolution to Zakzaki to security matters all across Nigeria. And of course, we are going to be here to give you more of those news on our website, www.vanguardngr.com. Please look up for all the breaking news as it comes your way, and we'll sure do what we know how to do best, being ahead of others, giving you the best of the news. I've been speaking with them, the publisher of Ilukweju Today, GRA Today, and Lekki Today. Yes,
coming
soon. Okay, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, very wonderful having you here again. Of course, we should have you here sometime next week. Absolutely. And I've been working also with Bankole Idowu and Doze Wagu. Fantastic crew, this ones. Thank you for your time, and see you next time.